Welcome to HumanFuel, a gentle pause and a breath of clarity on your journey towards well-being, authentic power, and inner transformation. We bring together diverse healers to explore what it means to thrive in body, in mind, in spirit, and in our society. One breath, one honest conversation, one tool at a time.
Welcome back. You're tuning into HumanFuel, and this is episode 7. And namhlanje ngiphathele a guest, and I thought it was just important to bring in a counseling psychologist in the house. And I've known this counseling psychologist for some time now, probably over a decade, and he's a healer. He's a friend of mine. We have Phephelani Zondi.
Sawubona, Dr. Joy. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I think this is just like a spotlight on your journey because, as much as we know each other as psychologists, there's not a lot of us. So, you hardly hear my perspective of a lot of psychologists, particularly besintu. As well. But what I mean is umuntu omnyama oyifundele lento because umuntu ufika with their own life experiences to the profession. I like to start with the question around what healing means to you.
That's a very good question. Before I attempt to answer the question of what healing means to me, let me try and answer the question of what is a healer? What does the healer try or attempts to do when they heal?
Mm-hmm.
I like to put it this way. Umelaphi umuntu ongumkhanyisi wendlela eya kuwe. I don't know how to put it in English, but a healer is someone who lights up a path towards yourself. Because the journey of a human being is never complete until they stop, turn around, and walk straight towards themselves. So healing is self-mastering. Healing is reaching your transcendent self. Healing is being in touch with your highest ideal. That is what a healer is trying to do. They foster and facilitate a path towards you reaching your highest ideals.
Yeah. I like that, especially the part where you mention the healer being a facilitator of the process. Because sometimes I think we can get so caught up in the you as the ultimate tool that's now carrying healing for a person, and you're facilitating the process of healing. And I love all of those different dimensions that you offered as well. It's at all these different levels and dimensions from transcendence.
In the traditional sense of healing and healers, I was fascinated by different kind of healers, and I discovered that there's a particular healer that people don't know about. So this person was explaining to me that there are different kinds of healers in the traditional sense. We know the one popular is Umgoma or Isangoma. The second one we know is Inyanga, someone who deals with herbs. So Umgoma can be just a seer, or a prophet. But umuntu obonayo. And then there is this third one. They call him Umhlaziyi. Didn't know that there was
Right.
someone like that. So yena uyakuhlaziyela, and he helps you. He listens to you and helps you analyze your life better. I didn't know about that. And then he says, mina ngiyahlaziya. I'm not a isangoma. I'm not an inyanga. Ngingumhlaziyi. And it makes sense to me that therapists or psychologists are called psychoanalysts. So they help you analyze your life better. So Umhlaziyi wempilo yakho, meaning that they help you to get a broader perspective pertaining your life. So and then you see it all come back to you because we are hlaziya impilo yakho. They help you to see your life broader.
Yeah.
The metaphor I like to use is, when you have a wardrobe and it's full of things, they are all over the place, not folded neatly and packed in place. Which is why someone comes to me and I say, "What brings you here?" And they say, "Izinqalephi hlangahlangene." There's a feeling that I feel like it's just all
Everything's
over
just,
the place,
yeah,
So the healer would then,
scattered.
everything is scattered. So going back to the wardrobe metaphor, what you do if your wardrobe is all over the place, you pick up every piece of cloth and you fold it, and
One by
one by one by one, and put it back
It's rightful
in,
place.
in, in its rightful place, so that when you open your wardrobe, you feel more at ease.
Show more, yeah.
Actual more, yeah.
Yes.
And you know where to find what.
Right,
You see,
right.
things are not lost and all over the place, you know. Which is why then when someone goes through therapy, they feel like, oh, I can breathe now. Yeah, I don't feel suffocated. I don't feel stuck. I don't feel like, hey, uhlanga,
Yes.
because the healer, the psychoanalyst, Umhlaziyi, has helped them to be able to see, analyze their lives broadly.
Yeah, I love that. And it's quite comprehensive as well. In fact, I remembered that the the definition of a guru, which is a form of a healer in the Eastern tradition, literally that word guru translates to bringer of light. So I love just
That's
the
interesting.
interconnectedness of
Yeah.
zooming out when you look at healing from a broader perspective. And you can think, "Ukuthi, because I'm a counseling psychologist, this is the only sort of way in which I will look at healing." Yes, that is your modality, but your life perspective, your life experience, and just being in the world is much broader than that. And I feel as if that brings more light to the therapy session as opposed to bringing these neatly packed therapies and processes.
But ultimately, a healer is someone oletha ukana and bring your mood. That's
Right.
it. And I spoke about this on my Facebook page. I was fascinated. I discovered that when you go to a traditional healer, Nyanga or Umgom, and you want to ask what is their consultation fee, you don't say it like that. You say, "Oh, ngikhanyisa ngento engakanani." I like that. I want people to say, when they ask me, they don't say, "What's your consultation fee, Phephelani?" No, ask me, Phephelani, khanyisa ngamalini la. Because ngiyakukhanyisela. I mean, that's my job. I help to facilitate the light, to bring in the light clarity, a sense of ease, a sense of groundedness. I see clearer now. Now it makes sense.
Illumination.
Now I'm better connected to how I feel. Now I'm able to connect the dots of what is happening in my life, or what's been happening to my life.
Usuthinte mina-ke lapho nomalanga. And I know we can just go to town with this one. In fact, I think it's a good place to go into a conversation about just what got you into this profession in the first place. You have a very broad understanding of healing, and then you chose counseling psychology for a particular reason. And perhaps could you share with the listeners, Uti, what got you into this profession?
I want to think, Uguti, perhaps every psychologist or every healer is propelled by a particular question that they are trying to answer. And what brought me into the profession of psychology perhaps was the question that I was trying to answer in my mind. As a young adult or as a young person, I found myself encountering a major turning point in my life or a major difficulty. And I was trying to overcome that and transcend that and make sure that I am becoming successful, I bounce back, and I'm becoming prosperous, and I am scheduling my future in a particular way. And for me, I thought about many people who went through difficulties and I knew them, but who seem to have emerged successfully. And the pressing question for me was, why do other people go through life's difficulties and emerge with grace and thrive and prosper?
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, how does the mind work there? What does psychology say about that? How can people use psychology to transcend their circumstances? So that was the sort of prevailing question that brought me to want to study psychology. And of course, when I got in, it was not exactly what I expected, because you study a lot about pathology,
Right.
mental illness.
What is wrong with you?
Yes, what is wrong with people and how to remedy that. I remember I didn't have the word, the language back then when I wanted to study psychology, but now I think I do. Jim Rohn says you don't have to be sick to get better. So I think my quest was, how do we then make normal life more fulfilling? How do we make normal life to be flourishing, to thrive? Which is then what the so-called positive psychology movement has been trying to answer the question of what makes life worth living. What are the core, the essentials of well-being?
Yeah. And you're big on that. I mean, I've listened to a lot of the things you put out around that positive psychology school of thought. And it's a shift in perspective, hey, to expect, especially from a psychologist. And I mean, you are the happiness teacher. And at the same time, your approach is to happiness is grounded in science, which I love in terms of now bringing it to the people as opposed to always at the back of your mind trying to diagnose what is wrong with the person.
Yeah, akhuluma ngalento of the what makes life worth living. What are the essentials of a good life? When I say to you, how are you? You don't say I am unsick. Mangithi unjani, you say ngiyaphila. So your aim is not trying to be unsick. Your aim is trying to be well, which means then health is not just the absence of illness. It should be more than that. Which is why when your life is good, you sort of don't consciously see the elements and the pillars of well-being that are present in your life until you hit a wall. And then you realize, oh, these were the pillars of my life. For an example, someone who is depressed. When you are depressed, one of the things that happen is that you lose the sense of vitality. You lose the feeling that you are alive, the feeling of aliveness, which you take for granted when you go about in your life. Because this sense of vitality is there. You feel the drive, which is why someone who's severely depressed, waking up in the morning, getting off bed is an achievement. And I remember, I fight with my clients, say, take a walk, phumela emnyango. And they struggle, phumela emnyango. And I say to you, to them, listen, for the whole of this week, do one thing for me, phumela emnyango. And we fight about that. I even sent some of them. I even send them a text and get it today. Phumela emnyango. You and someone would read that and they would laugh because they know right about this. When I come back to the session, they will ask me how many times did you pumela emnyango, and then we really fight about
It's
that.
an easy homework, that one.
But it's not easy.
It's not,
when you are going through depression because
Yeah.
you don't have the main pillar of well-being, which is a sense of vitality, a sense of aliveness. So you sort of have to push yourself to overcome the feeling of being clustered, which is why I get depression. It goes in hand with a sense of hopelessness, feeling worthless, a sense of my life doesn't have proper meaning. All of that is connected to you feeling the lack of vitality.
Yeah. Even no mazaz, like to not know yourself, sense of self. So like physically you're there, but like there's just this sense of self that you usually would not pick up when it's there. So I definitely agree with you on that, having also just experienced depression and how you do feel like everything is heavy to do. There's this almost suppression where even just for me to walk out of this sunroom outside was a lot. And then I've noticed that I'm getting better when I'm outside and there's no unknown fear and I'm feeling agitated by the sun. I'm not used to it anymore. But all of that is a sign of vitality, of life that we take for granted quite a bit. Do you think that this profession has been a useful vehicle for your purpose at a higher level?
Um, yeah, I think it has.
Tell me more.
You see, when you are a healer, you can't heal without healing. You heal as you heal. Meaning,
Wait, please can you say that again?
when you are a healer, you can't heal without healing. Meaning, you can't heal without you yourself doing your own healing work.
Yeah.
So when you heal others, you heal yourself in the process. So one of the things that will make me to continue doing this work even in old age is that I always feel like I heal as I heal. Going back to my definition of what healing is: transcendence, going beyond yourself, reaching your highest ideals. Someone may say reaching your highest self. So not just perhaps healing from the wounds of the past and childhood and all of that, even going beyond that to your highest ideals.
I love that so much.
So it does give me that sense of beauty, and it forces you to be wise. Noma ngabe-ke angihlakaniphile kangakanani, kodwa lo msebenzi ongenzayo uyangiphoqa ukuthi ngihlakaniphe. Awukwazi ukungahlakaniphi uma wenza lo msebenzi. So-ke I'm smart, but not that smart. But I think ukuthi this work has made me to be a little bit wiser and a little bit more humane, a little bit more human.
When you then started practicing, now getting into the profession, what are some of the challenges, especially that you didn't even think about, that challenged you as you were in this pursuit of holding space for healing and facilitating healing for our clients now? Yeah.
Perhaps what was challenging and difficult for me is that after graduating and doing my internship and writing my board exam and having a certificate that says you are now a registered psychologist. I still didn't feel like a psychologist.
Yeah.
Um, I I didn't have enough trust and faith that I can actually do this. Just from on a personal level, I didn't have the confidence that I can actually sit with a person and help them to heal. Um, so that was one of the main difficulties, having to then sit down and see, can you do this?
Such a vulnerable case.
So it was difficult for me to start and to do it. It brought in a lot of anxiety because I don't think I had the actual confidence of how much I know. I remember speaking to my supervisor during my internship, and after I was just about to finish my internship, and I said to her, I don't feel like I'm ready to go and do this work because I feel like there's a lot that I don't know. So I still need to figure out how much I don't know. And she looked at me and said, yeah, but you must also remember what you already know. She was just picking up how much I was obsessing about how much I don't know, and that I was not allowing myself to just have the process of growth and development, and just allow myself to grow. When I started practicing, I gradually developed that sense of efficacy and
Yeah.
faith that I am actually able to do this. You know.
Well, I do think that it's quite important work, and people come like and become so vulnerable. We'd like them to be. It's probably important in the process of healing. So I can just understand how daunting that can be. I wasn't doing therapy in the beginning. I was doing a lot of one-on-one, but in a coaching environment. And that alone as well, just sitting one-on-one, giving people feedback on their psychometrics, and you psychoanalyzing them and you're integrating them. And you're not sure how this person is going to receive all of this because it's also in the context of their work, and work environments have their own issues. So it's only in that way that I can understand how daunting it is to hold space for someone. I can't imagine when they're just bringing things that are life complexities.
Mm.
Which brings me to then over time, you've probably spoken to a lot of people now on your couch. I've gone to your office there. It's nicely put in. There's nice couches there.
Yeah, it has to be a little bit more inviting and comfortable.
But tell us, as human fuel, what's one of the most memorable stories that was shared on your couch
Yo,
as a learning moment?
maningi.
Yeah. Hey, yo.
I remember this one time a lady came in. So yeah, I introduced myself. I'm Phephelani or Zondi. They went to a particular place in the township, a tavern to drink, and she wanted to go back home early. But abangani bakhe, they wanted to stay longer. So she decided to walk alone. On her way home, she unfortunately is ambushed by a particular guy. This guy drags her to a particular dilapidated house, forces himself on her. He rapes her. So she tells me this story. By the way, I struggle to listen to stories of rape. That's a story for another day. And then when this guy was still on top of him, a security guard comes in and says, "Hey, Nenzanla." And then the rapist stands up, runs away. And whilst she was feeling that sense of, okay, at least there's someone here, I'm safe, the security guard says, "I ngapsasukuma." ungabe usaphakamisa the security guard finishes her off. But what was particularly moving, disturbing, and why this story stayed with me forever is when she was explaining to me why she didn't fight. What was there to protect? The first guy came in and took her life. What was there to protect? Why did she have to fight the security guard? It stayed with me because something in her was taken forcefully, was lost. And there was a wall of boundary that was broken, which means then she goes around not having any sense of pride to hold on to, and that it just stayed with me, that metaphor of there is nothing else for me to fight for, to protect, because everything then has been taken away from me, my sense of pride. I've been exposed. So it was difficult for us to then work around the journey of retaining herself. Where do you then begin to reaffirm her personhood, her identity, and her sense of pride, her sense of feeling that there is something in her that she can protect?
She has to lose, yeah.
You can then just imagine the person trying to then go about life, engaging as a normal person in a normal relationship, how that works if they feel like everything was taken from me, there is nothing to be proud of.
And what I'm hearing from the story as well is just how layered the process of healing is, as like these bricks of like a house, and it probably needs certain conditions in place for the process to happen
To take
well.
place, yeah.
And perhaps when we are now closing this conversation, what could you share? What are the conditions that need to be present for healing to take place?
Yeah, sake saba ne-debate enkulu ngale umbuzo lo in our class, when Prof was asking us ukuthi what makes therapy work, and why do people change in therapy, what makes therapy effective, what are those components and factors. And we had to go and read a lot of articles and come back and argue why therapy works. For me, there is one that stands out after having experienced therapy and doing therapy work. For healing to take place, one must have an affirming attitude towards themselves. So one of the major things that you do as a healer is to help your client to have an affirming attitude towards themselves, which means they must be able to view themselves, think of themselves, talk about themselves in a more affirming attitude, and have and have self gentleness, self acceptance, self warmth, self compassion. Because if that is not there, then healing cannot take place. Take for instance the client I am talking about. Of course, this client comes in with a lot of shame about what happened to them, perhaps self-blame, perhaps self-disgust, the disdain they have towards themselves about what happened to them. And now you then have to model a sense of affirming them, accepting them as they are, and facilitate an affirming attitude towards themselves.
Yeah.
So for healing to then take place, one must have an affirming attitude towards themselves.
Yeah.
I call it a 360-degree total self-acceptance. One therapist call it the radical self-acceptance. I think I like that even more.
I like that a lot. Ngithanda kakhulu leyo nto, especially because of what you mentioned with regards to the inner dialogue. We don't usually pay attention to how we talk to ourselves. And when you are conscious about positively affirming yourself, I mean, it starts from the inside, it's a great anchor for it to start being externalized. And even in my own healing journey, I remember that in the very beginning of being intentional about the journey of transcendence, I have just affirmations all around the house. I am Nomalanga. I am giver of life. I am whole. Ngiphelele. All of those things I found also just from a brain perspective. It's basically rewiring your neurological pathways, and that reconstructs the whole identity, which is what the case of the woman you spoke about needs essentially. So I do agree about that condition that needs to be present. It definitely starts creating the infrastructure to handle more and more of this healing journey, Sihamba. And how nice that people get to have someone like yourself who are walking that journey with them. And I think that us as just a nation, Auntie, really need to take this tool seriously in terms of just standing up for our own well being and healing as individuals, because that has its own ripple effect to our society. I think so. Nenza umsebenzi omkhulu kakhulu emphakathini.
Thank you so much. Yazi lento ekhulumayo ingikhumbuza ukubaluleka kwamagama ngesintu. Because the first self affirmation is your name. Because
Right.
when your parents beqamba, they are affirming, they are professing something kuwena that is self affirming.
That's a cultural thing
Yes.
in the healing process
Yes.
that we also need to make space for when we are using this tool in this context.
Because they don't want the meaning to be lost. So ekhaya, when they said Phephelani, they didn't know. Perhaps they knew. I don't know.
See,
They were
this is your destiny.
Phephelani, come and seek shelter. It's very prophetic. Phephelani, come and, because Phephelani means come
Find
and
refuge.
come and find refuge. Come and seek shelter.
Shelter.
You know, that's an affirming attitude. You know, towards the self, and baningi abantu or nongcebo or I mean, I had that another Zulu word. Someone says, ingane yami uzosukuma izizwe. My
Mighty
my daughter is Maine Imvula. Umayine. It's an affirming Maine Imvula.
Let it rain.
So it's the self-affirming, which starts really with you.
And I love that our conversation has brought us here, because it's a great segue to our isiZulu word of the episode. Do you have one for us, maybe?
Igama lesiZulu esingalisebenzisa nje for this. Ngizolithola kodwa.
What's coming to mind for me that we are hesitant about assigning to counseling psychologists is umelaphi.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell? You are better in Zulu than I. In fact, guys, some of these translations of these words, I asked Phephelani first to check them before I give them to you guys. So let me give that to him to explain for us this segment. Zulu word for this episode.
Yeah, I think umelaphi, yes, would be more appropriate. Well, I'll have my own philosophical definition.
Keep it here together.
You know what kwelapha means for me? Lapha angikwazi ukwelapha ngingazi ukuthi ulaphi. Lapha means
Like
here.
everything. Yes.
You know?
Go.
You know, so I need to know where you are, which is why when you come to me, you would say, angazi kuhlangahlangene. So in my line of questioning, I'm trying to ngiyelapha. Ngizama ukuthola ukuthi ulaphi ukuze ngikwelaphe. So ukwelapha is bringing back to your sense of groundedness. Ngilapha. Lapa means heal. Lapa means here. Lapa means present. Lapa means mindful. You know, Lapa means grounded.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's a great place to just close our conversation for this episode. Phephelani, guys, Nyamtola A. Moses Mabide Tegwini. There's a center there called
Prime.
Yes.
Right at the Moses Mabida Stadium, there's a place called Prime. That's where we are.
Yeah, he's a great psychologist, not because he's my friend, because this was what he was made to do. Phephelani kuye siyabonga for this episode.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
You have just refueled with HumanFuel, where healing meets conversation and transformation begins with presence. If this episode sparked anything in you, share it with someone you love or someone who needs a little light today. Follow us, subscribe, rate the show, and join the tribe across socials for truth, tools, and more fuel for your journey. Until next time, stay rooted, stay rising, and keep breathing. Siyabonga.